All right. Hello, scholars, and welcome to Math with Mr. A. So this lesson is on the division of fractions. Now, as we all know, division is quite simple and complex at the same time because a lot of people think that when you say like 1 divided by 2, that uh 2 is just going to be under the house. However, that's incorrect. So like when you see stuff like this, 1 divided by 2, or 4 divided by 10, those are fractions and those answers are decimals because that means the standard algorithm is going to look like this. 1 is the dividend, 2 is the divisor. Same thing with here, 4 divided by 10. Because I said 4 first, 4 goes under the house, 10 goes outside of that. But it's also the fraction, 1 divided by 2. 1 is always the divisor divided by 2, right? Or 4 divided by 10. 4, right? 1 is the dividend, sorry, 4 is the dividend. Whatever goes under the house is also the numerator. So like, just make sure those things, right? Or like understanding 1 divided by 2. How many groups of 2 are in 1? 4 divided by 10. How many groups of 10 are in 4? When you are dividing, you want to make sure you're following these steps. You want to identify the dividend or the total amount, identify what amount is being grouped from the total, write an expression with words to describe the situation, and the grouping, fill in the blanks. How many groups of 2 are in 1? Or how many groups of 10 are in 4? Right? Make a label and model of the situation. Solve and respond to the problem. So I know I can divide fractions and or mixed numbers when I write the expression, how many groups of the divisor are in the dividend, the number being split up, the dividend, divided by the number doing the splitting, the divisor. And these are the multiple ways it's written, right? So like all of these is basically saying 24 divided by 6, excuse me, 24 divided by 6 equals 4. 24 dividend. The dividend goes under the house. The dividend is the numerator. 6 divisor. And 4 the quotient. As you can see here, the same thing, right? So 3 1/2 divided by 1/4, right? So my model would have to show my dividend or total or numerator, right? And then 1/4 is my divisor, right? So it's being split up into groups of 1/4, right? As you look at this model, this shows 3 wholes and 1/2. Since since I created 4 boxes because I had to represent the 3 wholes, such as this, but I also had to represent that 1/2. Hence why I crossed out that extra box, right? Now, as you can see, each of my holes are split into fourths, right? And I'm counting groups of fourths, which is here. Split it, divided by fourths. So each hole gets divided by fourths, right? So you already know that there are 4 fourths in each hole, but there are 2 fourths and a half. So 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 2 would give you 14. Okay? Another thing to keep doing is when you're doing the standard algorithm way, right? 3 1/2, right? Or put it wrong, 4/15 divided by 2/3. There are 2 ways to look at this. First, you want to look at your fraction. Sometimes the numerator and the denominator are factors of what's being divided. When that's the case, you can just go ahead and divide straight through. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. What you can also do is multiply by the reciprocal. 4/15, so you keep the 4/15, and you multiply it by the reciprocal of 2/3, which is the opposite, which is 3/2. And then you get 12/30ths, However, 12 and 30th have the greatest common factor of 6. When you divide that by 6 over 6, 12 divided by 6 is 2, 30 divided by 6 is 5. The only way you can do it this way is if the numerator and the denominator have a factor that goes into it in the divisor. Okay? So let's get to work. It says, given the problem, 7/8 divided by 1/4. Right? Which of the situation could you solve to show the given feat? So these are a lot of different problems. But first, you just want to understand what's happening. So you know that your total, right? Your total or your dividend is 7/8. So you want to write that down. 7/8 total or dividend, right? Total could be conceived as a lot of different things. Total can be your area. Total can be the full amount, right? And 1/4 is your divisor. So it needs to be split into groups of 1/4. So let's look at all of this. A rectangular postcard is 7/8 feet long and 1/4 feet wide. What is the area of the postcard in square feet? So if you're talking about a rectangle, right? You're talking about area. If you're talking about area, the total goes inside. And the total is the dividend. So the total will be 7/8. In this problem, it shows that the postcard is feet long by 1/4 feet wide. This is incorrect because the area would technically be 7/8. What about this one? This says 7/8 pounds of sugar is evenly split among 4 people, right? 7/8 pounds, that's correct because that represents the total and it's split with 4 people, right? That is incorrect because whatever your total is, it's not split with 4 people, it's split with 1/4 people. So that is incorrect. A pancake recipe calls for 1 cup of per batch, right? Okay, so each batch, there's 1/4 cups, right? And you have 7/8 cups of sugar. So you have a total of 7/8 cups, right? And and it's shared between 1/4. How many batches? This would be correct. A bird feeder has 7/8 pounds. At night, the feeder has 1/4 pounds of bird seeds left. How much bird seeds was eaten, right? If it's less, then this shows that this is going to be subtracted, right? So this number essentially would be like 7/8 minus 1/4. Do you see that? Because it said left and how many pounds was eaten. So it started off with this, and at the end of the night, it had this. So the answer here is C. A student is solving a problem 5 divided by 2/3. He draws a fraction model to help him think through the problem. So let's look at the model. Where do you see 5 holes? I see 5 holes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each hole is being shared with 2/3. Do you see why I separated in here? Now let's like mentally understand what this means. 3 tells me that each whole is shared within 3 parts. However, 2/3 is taken out of each whole, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is the remainder. Now, every time, when I counted groups of 2/3, I didn't say 2/3, I said 1. So 2/3 represents the whole that's being counted, right? However, the remainder is 1/3. This is half of this. So my answer would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1/2, right? Let's look at this numerically. 5 divided by 2/3. Every whole number is written over 1 divided by 2/3. Since I can't divide straight through, I need to multiply the total by the reciprocal. And the reciprocal is the opposite, which is 3/2, and that's 15/2. 2 goes into 15, 7 and 1/2 times. Or you could just divide 15 divided by 2. 2 goes into 15 7 times. That's 14 with a 1. The quotient becomes a whole, the remainder becomes the numerator, and the divisor becomes the denominator. 7 and 1/2 is your answer. Do you see how I found 7 and 1/2 numerically, and I found 7 and 1/2 here? So go ahead and talk to your parents about this. What is 2/3 divided by 1/6? Draw a picture. So I need to represent 2/3. So 2/3 is splitting my thing into 3 parts, and I'm taking 2/3. So I take this. Now, since I'm sharing it with 1/6, I need to split this into 6 sections. Two-thirds divided by 1/6 is saying how many groups of 1/6 go into 2/3? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer equals 4. Do you see how I created a model to represent that? This represents 2/3 divided by groups of 1/6. I can also look at it numerically. 2/3 divided by 1/6. Because I can't divide this, because 3 doesn't divide into 6 as a whole number, so I have to multiply it by the reciprocal. And 2 times 6 is 12/3. And 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So here, Luke used 1 3/4 liters of paint to paint 4 2/3 picture frames of the same size. How many liters of paint does you use to paint 1 picture frame? So you gotta look at this and you gotta see like, what's your total? So we have a total of 1 3/4 liters of paint. And you're painting 4 2/3 picture frames of the same size. So you use 1 3/4 in total, and you're painting this amount. So you're trying to figure out how many liters of paint to use to create 1 picture frame. So let's look at this with a table, right? So paint, picture. You use 1 3/4 to paint 4 2/3. However, how much does it use to paint 1? So to get from 4 and 2/3, you have to divide it by 4 and 2/3 on both sides. So it's going to be 1 and 3/4 divided by 4 and 2/3. Do you see how I was able to use a table to help me understand that? So now I know I'm dividing 1 and 3/4 divided by 2 and 4/3. Now watch what I do numerically. 1 and 3/4 divided by 4 and 2/3. It's really hard to divide when you have mixed numbers, so you have to convert these into improper fractions. And to convert, 4 multiplied by 1, and then add it with 3, which will give you 7/4 divided by 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14/3, right? Since there's no multiplicative relationship with a whole number, you have to multiply by reciprocal. So that'll be 7/4. So you keep this, switch this, and flip that. 7 times 3, 7, is 28. And 4 times 14 56. Now, is there a multiplicative relation between 28 and 56? Let's see. Can 28 go into 56? So 28 times 2 is 16. Huh. So you get to, so 28 goes into 56, so that means you can simplify using the greatest common factor. So 28, 56. Another note, if they are even numbers, you can always simplify, which is 1/2. So how many liters of paint does Luke use for one thing? Luke uses 1/2 liters of paint. Maxwell makes a small batch of pancakes each day for his family. Each batch requires 2/3 cups of milk. How many days can Maxwell make a batch of pancakes if 12 cups of milk are available? So 2 cups, sorry. So the total cups of milk is 2. Each batch requires 2/3 cups. So you got to figure out how many groups of 2/3 total 2. So your number sentence is 2 divided by 2/3. If we're looking at a model, here's your 2, right? In each group, you have to split into thirds. But each batch requires 2/3. So you circle groups of 2/3. So the answer is, how many days can Maxwell make a batch of pancakes with 2 cups? 3 days. How do I know that? Because 2 divided by 2/3 equals 3. So the bottom line is you have to determine what's your total and what's being shared within your total. These are pretty cool because these are open-ended problems. So which means that you have to answer all three bullets to get credit, which means that there will be 3 points. So Mateo has 6½ cups of sugar. Does she have anything else? No. So 6½ is total. How many batches of cookies can you make if each requires 3/4? So your number sentence is how many groups of 3/4 total 6½ right? So I have to show how I found my solution using a model like a tape diagram or a number line. Okay. So I need to represent 6½ divided by 3/4 equals an unknown number. So in my model, I need 6. Watch this. That represents 6 wholes, but I need to represent 6½ So I need another model to represent 1/2, right? So I'm sharing it with 3/4 cups. So each whole needs to be split into 4. But I'm dealing with 6½ so this is taken away. You understand? So that represents 6½ Now I have to figure out how many groups of 3/4 go into 6½ So this is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So that's 1. 1, 2, 3. Every group of that's 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 6. 1, 2, 3. 7. 1, 2, 3. Oh, but I can't do 3, so this is the remainder. So 3/4 represent 1 batch, but the remainder is 2/3 out of the 3/4. So this is 2 out of 3, so this is 2/3. So 1, 2, you want to double check your work. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 and 2/3. So I showed it. I got that point. Write a matching equation. I wrote that point. Write your answer in context. 8 and 2/3 batches of cookies can be used because 6½ split into groups of 3/4 total 8 and 2/3 batches of cookies. I can double check my work by turning this into an improper fraction. So 6½ divided by 3/4, that's 13/2 times 4/3, which is 48/6. Oh, that's 13. See, that's why you got to double check. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13/2. So 13/4 is 13 times 4. 1, 2. So that's 52/6, right? And the greatest common factor is 2. Well, that's not the greatest common factor, but that's a common factor. 52 divided by 2 is 26 thirds. And this is an improper fraction. 3 goes into 26, 8, which will give you 24 and 2 thirds. Huh, that checks out. Now you do this one. Use what you learned in the problem before to solve. And I got all points because this will be 3 points. Okay. 5 3/4. 23/4 times 4/3. 92/12. Happened in 2/3. Let's see if you also get this answer, but you know that's only worth 1 point. You have to explain and you have to show your work. All right, that's enough for this one.